Hello, so this video I'm going to bring up, well, it's not a video, but this list I'm going to go over and talk about is types of eating disorders. I've never been diagnosed with the eating disorder, but I know a lot of people who have, and it is a scary disease for everybody involved. So, although the term eating is in its name, eating disorders are about more than food. They're complex mental health conditions that often require the intervention of medical and psychological experts to alter their course. These disorders are described in the American Psychiatric Association's Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 5th edition. In the United States alone, an estimated 20 million women and 10 million men have had an eating disorder at some point in their life. The article here describes 6 of the most common ones in their symptoms. So, what are eating disorders? Eating disorders are a range of psychological conditions that cause unhealthy eating habits to develop. They might start with an obsession with food, body weight, or body shape. In severe cases, eating disorders can cause serious health consequences and may even result in death if left untreated. Those with eating disorders can have a variety of symptoms. However, most include the severe restrictions of food, food binges, or purging behaviors like vomiting or over-exercising. Although eating disorders can affect people of any gender at any life stage, they are most often reported in adolescents and young women. In fact, up to 13% of youth may experience at least one eating disorder by the age of 20. Eating disorders are mental health conditions marked by an obsession with food or body shape. They can affect anyone but are most prevalent among young women. So what causes them? Experts believe that eating disorders may be caused by a variety of factors. One of these is genetics. Twin and adoption studies involving twins who were separated at birth and adopted by different families provide some evidence that eating disorders may be hereditary. This type of research has generally shown that if one twin develops an eating disorder, the other has a 50% likelihood of developing one too. This is on average. Personality traits are another cause, and particularly neuroticism, perfectionism, and impulsivity are 3 personality traits that are often linked to higher risk of developing an eating disorder. Other potential causes include perceived pressure to be thin, cultural preference for thinness, exposure to media promoting such ideas. In fact, certain eating disorders appear to be mostly non-existent in cultures that haven't been exposed to Western ideals of thinness. That said, culturally accepted ideals of thinness are very present in many areas of the world. Yet, in some countries, few individuals end up developing an eating disorder. Thus, they are likely caused by a mix of factors. More recently, experts have proposed that differences in brain structure and biology may play a role in the development of eating disorders. In particular, levels of the brain messages serotonin and dopamine may be factors. However, more studies are needed before strong connections can be made. So, for eating disorders, for talking about them, we're going to start with anorexia nervosa. This one is most likely the most well-known eating disorder. It generally develops during adolescence or young adulthood and tends to affect women more than men. People with anorexia generally view themselves as overweight, even if they're dangerously underweight. They tend to constantly monitor their weight, avoid eating certain types of foods, and severely restrict their calories. Common symptoms of it include being considerably underweight compared with people of similar age and height, very restrictive eating patterns, an intense fear of gaining weight, or persistent behaviors to avoid gaining weight despite being underweight, a relentless pursuit of thinness and unwillingness to maintain a healthy body weight, a heavy influence of body weight or perceived body shape on self-esteem, a distorted body image including denial of being seriously underweight. So like they're seriously underweight, but they're like, no, I'm No, I'm fat. Even if they're really skinny, they see themselves as fat. So, obsessive compulsive symptoms are often present in this case. For instance, many people with anorexia are often preoccupied with constant thoughts of food and may excessively collect recipes or hoard food. Such individuals may also have difficulty eating in public, exhibit a strong desire to control their environment, limiting their ability to be spontaneous. Anorexia is officially categorized into two subtypes, the restricting type and the binge eating and purging type. Individuals with the restricting type lose weight solely by dieting, fasting, and excessive exercise. Individuals with the binge eating and purging type may binge on large amounts of food or eat very little. In both cases, after they eat, they purge using activities like vomiting, taking laxative or diuretics, or exercising excessively. Anorexia can be very damaging to the body. Over time, individuals living with it may experience the thinning of their body bones, like their bones will get really thin, infertility, brittle hair and nails, and the growth of a layer of fine hair like all over their body. In severe cases, anorexia can result in heart, brain, or multi-organ failure and death. Another well-known one is bulimia nervosa. Like anorexia, bulimia tends to develop during adolescence and early adulthood and appears to be less common among men than women. People with bulimia frequently eat unusually large amounts of food in a specific time period. Each binge eating episode usually continues until the person becomes painfully full. During a binge, the person usually feels that they cannot stop eating or control how much they are eating. Binges can happen with any type of food, but most commonly occur with foods the individual would normally avoid. So some of the common symptoms of this one is recurrent episodes of binge eating with feelings of lack of control, recurrent episodes of inappropriate purging behaviors to prevent weight gain, a self-esteem overly influenced by body shape and weight, a fear of gaining weight despite having a normal weight. Side effects of bulimia may include an inflamed and sore throat, swollen salivary glands, worn tooth enamel, tooth decay, acid reflux, irritation of the gut, severe dehydration, and hormonal disturbances. In severe cases, bulimia can also create an imbalance in levels of electrolytes such as sodium, potassium, and calcium. This can cause a stroke or heart attack. So the third one is binge eating disorder. Binge eating disorder is believed to be one of the most common eating disorders, especially in the United States. It typically begins during adolescence and early adulthood, although it can develop later on. Individuals with this disorder have symptoms similar to those of bulimia or the binge eating subtype of anorexia. For instance, they typically eat unusual large amounts of food in relatively short periods of time and feel a lack of control during binges. People with binge eating disorder do not resist calories or using purging behaviors, such as vomiting or excessive exercise, to compensate for their binges. So the common symptoms are actually very similar. Eating large amounts of food rapidly in secret or until uncomfortably full, despite not feeling hungry. Feeling a lack of control during episodes of binge eating. Feelings of distress such as shame, disgust, or guilt when thinking about the binge eating behavior. No use of purging behaviors such as calorie restrictions or anything like that to compensate for the binging. People with binge eating disorder often have overweight or obesity. This may increase their risk of medical complications linked to the excess weight, such as heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. So I'm actually going to take a quick intermission before I say the next three. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. You'll hear, lots of things like this, some of my coping skills, some stuff about mental health, some basic life skills that I've put on that I've had to learn and teach myself, and in teaching myself, I put it on YouTube to hope to find somebody else. But anyway, so quick break. Hello, so I'm back. This eating disorder is called pica. Pica is another eating disorder that involves eating things that are not considered food. Individuals with pica crave non-food substances such as ice, dirt, soil, chalk, soap, paper, hair, cloth, wool, pebbles, laundry detergent, or cornstarch, or anything really. Pica can occur in adults as well as children and adolescents. That said, this disorder is most frequently observed in children, pregnant women, in individuals with mental disabilities. Individuals with pica may be at an increased risk of poisoning, infections, and get injuries and nutritional deficiencies. Depending on the substances ingested, pica may be fatal. However, to be considered pica, the eating of non-food substances must not be a normal part of someone's culture or religion. And then we have rumination disorder. This is also another newly recognized eating disorder. It describes a condition in which a person regurgitates food they have previously chewed and swallowed, re-chews it, and then either re-swallows it or spits it out. This typically occurs within the first 30 minutes after a meal. Unlike medical conditions like reflux, it's voluntary. This disorder can develop during infancy, childhood, or adulthood. In infancy, it tends to develop between 3 to 12 months of age and then disappear on its own. Children and adults with the condition usually require therapy to resolve it. If not resolved in infants, it can result in weight loss and severe malnutrition that can be fatal. And then for the last disorder, we have avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. This is a new name for an old disorder. The term replaces what was known as feeding disorder of infancy and early childhood, a diagnosis previously reserved for children under 7 years old. Although this usually generally develops in infancy or early childhood, it can persist into adulthood. What's more, it's equally common among men and women. Individuals with this disorder experience disturbed eating either due to lack of interest in eating or distaste of certain smells, tastes, colors, textures, room temperatures of the food. Common symptoms include avoidance or restrictive food intake that prevents the person from eating sufficient calories, eating habits that interfere with normal social functions such as eating with others, weight loss or poor development for age and height, nutrition deficiencies or dependence on supplements or tube feeding. It's important to note that it goes beyond normal behaviors such as picky eating in toddlers or lower food intake in older adults. Moreover, it does not include the avoidance or restriction of foods due to lack of ability or religious or cultural practices. So there are some other ones, in addition to the 6 ones that I went into details on. There are some lesser known ones that generally fall into 1 of 3 categories. Though purge disorder, individuals with purging disorder often purge behaviors such as vomiting, laxative. However, they do not binge. Night eating syndrome. Individual syndrome frequently eat excessively, often after awakening from sleep. Other specific feeding or eating disorder, other specified. So, while not found in the DSM-5, this includes any other conditions that have symptoms similar to those of an eating disorder, but don't fit into any of the criteria. So the bottom line here is the categories above are meant to provide a better understanding of the most common eating disorders and dispel myths about them. Eating disorders are mental health conditions that usually require treatment. They can also be damaging to the body if left untreated. If you have an eating disorder or know someone who might have one, seek help from a healthcare practitioner that specializes in eating disorders. I've never had a healthy relationship with food, but I've never been diagnosed as having an eating disorder. So there's been times in my life I've been depressed and I binge. And there's been times in my life that I don't feel good about I have low self-esteem. I don't feel good about my body. So I would not eat for, usually a couple days. And then I'd start eating again. Because so. But anyway, if you're experiencing any of these symptoms, please reach out to somebody. And no, you're not alone. But anyway, thanks for watching.
A star falls down from the darkened sky when it works born and die. Kingdom Animalia watches its approaching love. What is